We're now joined by Chris Fallica, Fox Sports, longtime part of GameDay, and an incredibly brilliant mind when it comes to college football. Chris, thank you very much. I know it's a very busy week, as it is always for you. Thanks for your time. This is an unbelievable weekend of college football with Texas, Ohio State, Columbus, and, of course, Alabama, Florida State, because of the history and tradition of the schools, and then Clemson, LSU. Your thoughts about bangers, as I call them, this opening weekend?
Well, before I get into the bangers on the weekend, the game that Coach Rule's involved in on Thursday is a pretty interesting game, too. And by the way, how great is he? I met him when he was at Temple, and when GameDay went there, they played Notre Dame. It was an unbelievable game. He took great care of us. Then to see him succeed at Baylor, I love that guy, and I hope that they have a great year this year. But they are in a position now where they're favored at Arrowhead. Are going to be largely Nebraska fans there. High expectations. That's a tricky opener when everyone's kind of expecting you to be that buzz team to go out there and win a game against a team you're better than. So I'm looking forward to that Thursday night. But the biggest thing that I love about this weekend in college football is that the three big games, the three top 10 games that you have, they're all standalone games. You got Ohio State, Texas at noon on Saturday. You got Clemson, LSU that night. You got Miami, Notre Dame on Sunday. Like, they all fall at periods of the Alabama, Florida State as well. They all fall at periods of the day where you can just lock in and watch all of those individually. So it's the first time ever you've had an opening week with three top 10 matchups. So it is a massive start to the year, and you're certainly going to be jumping in the pool, both feet in, head first, however you want to say it. Is the off season now is ended, and the reward for the long off season is games like this right off the bat. I
want to make sure, are you going to be able to get in the stadium? Which would be a big noon kickoff. Oh.
Yeah, I'm good. Ryan Day and me are good. The Ohio State athletic program and me are good. Chip Kelly and me are good. Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere yesterday, huh?
Yeah, that was a little bit interesting.
Yeah. Do you? I mean, you may not. I mean, what is that? Was always the plan not to have him go in the stadium?
I have no idea. Like, what the plans were. And I'm not trying to be political.
Yeah.
Your question. I honestly have no. When I think it was Ryan Glass-Steagall first reported that yesterday afternoon, that was literally the first I had heard of it. We had a production call earlier in the day, and it didn't come up. So clearly something happened at some point in the course of the day to create that. But I'm curious to see what's going to wind up happening now. Obviously, he'll be a big part of our show outside before we.
Yeah, that's been rebuked a little bit over throughout the day about that. Just a story that was there and it might just evaporate over the next few days. Hopefully it does. Yeah. Your thoughts, though, about, I mentioned the bang, Arch Manning. Who would you compare him to in college football in your time with this kind of buildup? And the lore is a word we've seen used before, too.
The only name that comes to mind is – and you're a college football historian and go back a long way, is Ron Powlus. Beano Cook, obviously, saying Ron Powlus is going to win multiple Heisman before he even played it down at Notre Dame in the early 90s there, and obviously he didn't. But in terms of the hype and the expectation and the anticipation, I mean, obviously you've got Arch with the Manning family name out of a university like Texas, and you had Ron Powlus, obviously not with the family name, but a school like Notre Dame, who was coming off of a national title and the great run that they had under Lou Holtz. Like, in terms of the anticipation and the expectations, I think Ron Powlus is probably the best parallel to what we're seeing right now with Arch, Texas.
What do you think about the quarterback matchup overall in this game with Julian Sayin and it's not Arch's first start and it's not his first game action, but it is for Julian Sayin.
It is. He got in a little bit of mop-up time late in the Tennessee game last year in the playoff. But I think the curious thing for me, and I think people watching the game and probably for Texas as they look to game plan against Julian Sayin on the Ohio State offense, is you've got a new play caller, first-time play caller in Brian Hartline. You've got two new running backs, and you've got a quarterback in Julian Sayin who is completely different from what Will Howard was at Ohio State. Will Howard was a threat to run. You guys watch him in the Big 12. You know what he did at Kansas State. He was a threat to run if things broke down, the offensive line broke down. Julian Sayin's not that kind of guy. He's got a better arm. He can spin it. He can get in there, and they got the best wide receiver group in the country. But if that offensive line breaks down, how will Sayin respond to that? That's what I am most curious about in this game, because that Texas defense, maybe a couple of questions up front, but those linebackers and secondary, they got the potential to be the best unit in the country.
Chris, this is not your mama's or your grandmama's college football. I mean, this is a totally different era than what we saw even 5-10 years ago. And it's been talked about, all the different bells and whistles from NIL to portal and all points in between as to why it is the way that it is. But there's also the expanded playoff at the same time. How have you, as a longtime college football fan, just sort of digested it all? And where's your head when it comes to these things either being great for the game to grow even further, or maybe not so good? Kind of how do you absorb all of the different change that's going on with this sport that we all love so much?
I'm kind of slow to change. I mean, I'm one of the guys who was like anti 12-team playoff. I thought the playoffs should be hard to qualify for. I loved it at 4 teams when they created it. Like, you should know it was going to be difficult to get in, and that's what made it great. There was so much mattered at the end of the year in the regular season, and it was truly mattered. And you saw an undefeated team get left out because their quarterback got hurt in one of the final years. So, but that being said, the first year of 12 was great. I think the home games for the opening round were fantastic, and I think it did create a lot of buzz and interest and keep a lot of other fan bases interested in the playoff. The intent of NIL, all for. If you are a player like Tim Tebow, or a player who brought so much value to your program, yeah, you should be getting a cut. You should be compensated. Your face and your name and image likeness is benefiting the athletic program as a whole. Like modern day, like if you're Caton Clark, like, yeah, you elevated women's college basketball to a different level at Iowa. You should absolutely be getting a piece of the pie. What I don't like about it is that somewhere along the way, NIL diverged from what we have, and it's pay for play. Basically, who's going to drop the biggest bag? And people can argue that it went on all along illegally when you just in the recruiting days. But there's kind of a disconnect there in terms of what the intent of NIL and ultimately what it's become. Kind of got a leak in there, go to the portal, and you got a bag waiting for you on the other side. So I get it. It's where we are in the sport, and hopefully there can be a little bit of organization and some leadership at the top that can kind of figure out where we're going from here. Because that intent, great, but where we are right now,
Chris, what's the buildup like with these Saturday pregame shows that you're a part of now with Fox Big Noon Kickoff? You've been a part of this for a long, long time. What is the prep like, and is it a buildup to a crescendo when that show begins on Saturday, mid to late morning?
It is, and obviously when I was with GameDay, the crescendo was always the headgear pick for Lee Corso at the end of the show. We were building the 3 hours of the show, and that was kind of the aha moment. Who's Lee going to pick in the guest picker segment? Now with Big Noon, it's a little bit different because we were typically at that game that's starting at noon. So it's almost like we have the 2 hours to kind of build up as not only the national pregame show, but a pregame show to get you ready for Joel and Gus and Jenny in that game. So that's kind of how when I'm inside the stadium for like that final hit in the segment, and the band is just coming on the field, and the crowd is filling in and getting wound up. That buildup of knowing that there's a kickoff imminent, a little bit different from what Game Day was, but it's still a very cool, unique experience for me in terms of actually the show morning in itself. And hopefully we're doing a good job trying to capture the pageantry and get you set for a big game on Saturday. But in terms of the week, the actual week, my workload week, it's basically the same as it's always been. Just kind of going through, looking for some statistical information, some data, whether it's a good note for the show itself, whether it's a gambling related note that might help make people some money. But you're doing a lot of writing, doing the podcasting, so it's great to be able to branch out and have a lot of fun, and then know that all of the work that I put in throughout the week in prep comes to a head at about 11:57 on Saturday morning.
Which game of the big ones, the big matchups this week, do you think is most likely to maybe go against conventional wisdom of what the spread is, of what people might think about the teams going in?
I think I would have to say, are we including Alabama, Florida State in that? Or
yes. Yes.
I would say that one. And the only reason I say that is I don't necessarily think Florida State's going to pull the outright upset. But for Alabama, with Ty Simpson, a first-time starting quarterback there, I know he played at USF in the middle of the game a couple of years ago when whatever was going on with Jalen Miller was going on. But for him to go on the road now, and that Alabama team to go on the road, you're not going to have Jam Miller running back. Maybe the weather is a little bad. Florida State was garbage last year, 2-10 after being a preseason top 10 team. Mike Norvell kind of upheaved his staff, and you got Gus Malzahn there now. Tommy Castellanos is a quarterback. I don't know how great Florida State is going to be this year, but you're going to get the best effort from Florida State that you're going to get all season Saturday afternoon, a big double-digit underdog at home. It would not surprise me at all if the Noles kind of hung around there in this one, and maybe there was a little bit of struggle from out, because that's one of the narratives I think this year with the SEC is you've got Alabama, Georgia, Texas, the three teams at the top. And I think you can say, okay, well, people are just assuming that Arch is going to go in there and be great, and hopefully he will be. People, I think, are just assuming, oh, it's Bama. They'll be back. Bama is always back. Yeah, but the biggest part of Bama is now sitting on the College Game Day set. And then you have Georgia, where it's like, oh, yeah, Kirby, you guys got to trust Kirby. And they're telling us they're going to be better without Carson Beck, and they're going to be better with Gunnar Stockton. Really? Like, that's my biggest question of the year. Can Gunnar Stockton actually play? And it brought me to a conclusion where, like, are we maybe missing out on the obvious? Is LSU potentially the best team in the SEC? They don't have Texas or Georgia on the schedule in the regular season. So, like, if you're looking for a nice little price on a team to win the SEC, LSU at 7-1 is something that you might want to look at.
Chris, I don't know if you got eyes on Iowa State, K-State last week, but I was just thinking about, okay, good, you did. I would love your thoughts on that game just to kind of open things up. But is the Big 12 like a nightmare to try and throw money around on? Like, I would just imagine that it's not very clear cut whatsoever, so it could kind of make things difficult when trying to peg just about anything when it comes to that conference.
And look no further than last year when you had BYU, who was picked 13th in the league. They started 9-0. You had Arizona State, who was picked last in the league. They wound up winning the league, and we all went into the year saying, oh, you could pick any one of 7 or 8 teams out of a hat, and it wouldn't surprise you. It were teams that weren't even in the hat that wound up being a factor in the race. So, yeah, it's funny. People will. A buddy of mine was texting me the other day saying, like, all these talking heads out there saying, this is who I would bet to win the Big 12. Like, why are you throwing your money away on that when it's basically a crapshoot where you can make a case for Kansas State, Iowa State, Utah, however, Arizona State, however, Kansas now. They looked great against Fresno State on Saturday. So it's a very tough league to handicap. I'm curious how serious that Dylan Edwards injury is. Hopefully he'll be back soon, because that really seemed like it took away a lot of Kansas State's running game, and maybe that fourth down play where Avery Johnson was short, maybe would have turned out a little bit differently. But I was really impressed with Iowa State. You knew they had a couple of new receivers coming in. Rocco Beck struggled early in the game in terms of completion percentage, but he got it going, and then Carson Hansen, I don't know if they kept him fresh for the second half or the fourth quarter on purpose, but he ran unbelievable in the fourth quarter. So as a guy who has been a long time unofficial ambassador and mayor of Ames and loved Iowa State and supported them, I'm fired up to get there with Big Noon in a couple of weeks. It's going to be great. Yeah, I came away a lot more impressed with Iowa State than I potentially thought they would be this year.
Chris, I know that you're at Fox, but I would be remiss not to ask you about the memories of working with Lee Corso.
Oh, Lee is an original. He's as authentic and genuine of a person as you will ever come across. And like when I stepped in, I came in 1996, which is the same year as Kirk Herbstreit started on the show. The way he treated us and the way he kind of helped us along with the show, it was fantastic. And then after he suffered his stroke, it was kind of our way of like putting our arm around him and guiding him and helping him and making sure that he never felt out of place or like he was on an island. If he was struggling for a moment, we were going to be there to pick him up. And personally, I have to thank Lee for giving me the nickname who the heck knows where I would be if I didn't have this little moniker Bear, kind of taken off with a catchy little nickname. We're sitting, Kirk and I having brunch one day, and Lee walks up to us and takes a look at me, takes a look at the table, takes a look at Kirk, and takes a look at the table and me again. And he's just like, look at you, Fallica. You're like a bear. You eat, you sleep, you poop. You go take a nap again, and you do it all over again. You're like a bear. So little nickname like that has turned into this little persona that's I've created for myself, and I have Lee to thank for that.
Last question. I know you got to go. You have things you got to get to. Paul, anything else?
I just want to say, look, I'm an FSU alum, and I think they should build a statue of him at FSU. I think that he has, outside of Bobby Bowden, I can't think of one person who's brought more positive attention to that than he has. I can't even fathom it.
No, he is a great ambassador of the sport, and I don't think it's hyperbole to ask the question of if his personality and his idea to honor Kirk and his future wife by putting on the Brutus head in 1996 to honor Kirk's first show back in Columbus, and that headgear pick and his taking off and the skits. We had schools that wanted us to come when I was at GameDay to the campus just because of that. It created popularity for the sport, revenue for the sport, and for schools and for ESPN and the show. It just absolutely took off. And who knows if GameDay continues and is popular and goes on the road with that? Who knows if there's a big noon kickoff that's created? Who knows if there's an Inside the NBA that goes on the road? All these pregame shows, I think, really have a debt of gratitude to Lee and everything that he took. And I agree with you too on Lee. People might forget, and he reminded you in the documentary special last week, he held the Florida State interception record until a guy named Dion came along.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Chris, amazing to get you on the show. We appreciate you so much. Enjoy the week. I know you will. Thanks for your time, and enjoy college football. I know you will too.
We certainly will. It's going to be a great weekend, and talk to you again soon, guys.
Yes, sir. Chris Fallica, Fox Sports, the Bear.